So now, enlighten us, Ajit. Are online web searches, voice searches, are all tracked by, and they serve you ads, right, to your relevance when you're on social platforms. Do we have a say in it? Is tracking and profiling considered to be okay?
It is okay, provided there are certain rules of the game, right? And that's where these data privacy regulations have specifically been amended. As I
Right.
said, GDPR was amended. One of the primary focus areas was profiling and tracking.
Right.
So that it gives more power to the customer to know that he is being tracked, what is being tracked of him, how long, who all will be having access to the data, and the customer can always withdraw the permission given for tracking.
Okay.
So in today's age, if I want to provide a good customer experience, I need an ability to track. I need an ability to know the behavior of the customer so that I'm able to give a very focused, personalized offer or a service which will be meaningful, which reduces my cost of operation, so that for every communication I make, I get a return rather than making blanket communications and just losing money on it. My business won't survive.
True.
At the same time, so we have this concept of which is speaking up, which is cookie-less world, with regards to tracking. So Google is threatening for a long time that they will stop allowing cookies on their browser. Other browsers have anyways stopped allowing cookies.
Okay.
So which has forced people to now provide similar service, which is profiling and the first party, second party, third party data to be matched, etc., without cookies. So we are already having companies who are doing cookie-less tracking, right, and data enhancements. So had it not been the push of these data privacy regulations, right, people would have continued misusing the system. So the good thing is these regulations are forcing people to come with alternatives, yet achieve even better outcomes,
Right.
but with more of data protection in place.
Right. Interesting. Now, when the Indian PDP Act does come into effect, how do you think will it affect businesses?
So first and foremost, even before it has come into effect, I know a lot of my large clients have started practicing data privacy. They have already hired the EYs of the world, spent a lot of money trying to know where their data is, and started redoing their processes in anticipation of what it is going to come. So how is it going to affect us? That the freedom to freely use data will go away. There has to be a purpose and there has to be a consent to use data. So moment these two aspects are put in place, the choice of the businesses to think of an idea while sleeping at night and implement it first thing in the morning when you get up is going to go away.
True.
Right? There are going to be some prerequisites. It's going to add some lead time, and a lot of those things may not be possible or maybe too expensive to do.
Right.
So people will have to start thinking differently. They will have to use out-of-box means and preempt future actions and be ready today for things that I wish to do in future. Right? So those are the good things that will happen. Business will not stop delivering. In fact, you're going to have, as per Gartner, by 2023, more than 40% of the world will start using devices. Technology, digital ways of, seeking services. More than 40% of the world. So that's a big number. So businesses are not going to stop providing services. It's only going to get better and better. It's going to get more focused and micro targeted.
Right.
But it will be, they will have to think differently and will not be able to use data the way they were doing earlier.
Right. True.
So there will be some short-term disruptions for sure.
Until the dust settles.
And people will try to circumvent it one way or the other.
Yes.
A few people
will take
getting caught. It will slowly start getting the fear factor will start coming.
Yes.
and people will start complying.
True.
But all the large companies have already started complying to the laws in anticipation.
Right. So very interestingly, so large companies are doing it, right? Now, what do you think should be the first step that businesses must take when the act comes into effect, irrespective, large or small?
So the first thing to do there would be to read the act. The act has certain ifs and buts. So one needs to know which part or section of that act is applicable to an organization depending upon its size and nature of business.
Right.
And first comply from that perspective.
Okay.
The second would be to do something that we typically call as a data impact assessment. So list down all the processes that are running in that organization,
Right.
and assess it from which all kinds of data each process handles, and out of which are PI and non-PI.
Okay.
So the draft bill did not have a definition of PI,
Right.
but I believe the one that is in the parliament will have it finally when it's being passed, as to these are the elements that we call it as personal information. So identify the personal information in each process, and then follow the principles of data privacy in terms of minimization, localization, data retention. So all these would be, the starting points. So you first do a due diligence.
Right.
You know where you are and what you need to do to bring it up to speed.
Right.
Look at your contracts. See if your contracts are well defined. Are there contracts? Yes, no. Has it been expired? Does it have data privacy security considerations? So these are the starting points that one needs to do. Thereafter, then put efforts to take it live. So fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
When I mean, so fill in the gaps and then start slowly complying with it. So this is a long process. It takes a lot of time.
Right.
And larger the organization, more legacy data, the more difficult it is.
True.
More often than not, people may say, you know what, I have not built this. I have just started this, using this, from yesterday. I have no understanding.
Right.
So how do you then know details about it?
True. So would it be fair to say, Ajit, that organizations should anyways get into the act of getting the data privacy bit together individually in their organizations,
Yes.
irrespective of it being passed or not?
Yes, because the longer, more the time you have, the
Right.
more you can space it. There is going to be a lot of human resistance to change. So you need to give more time for that. People are not going to accept the change overnight.
True.
There is going to be an investment in training,
True.
teaching people on the act, the privacy concepts, etc. So all this is an investment that takes time and effort.
True.
So the earlier we start, the more time we get to course correct things before the penalties start kicking in. So now even when this act goes live, it's not going to go, the penalty won't kick in from day one. The government will give maybe a year and a half, whatever, for companies to get
First
comply with the act.
Right.
But then the time is so short and the effort to comply will be so huge that we will end up compromising and hoping that we don't get caught
Right.
when the penalties start kicking. So the penalties are pretty high even in the draft bill. It's very, very high. Not worth taking that. The SME would close shop overnight
Yes.
with one penalty. So it's better that we start today and start implementing the change. There will be some resistance, so you can slowly break the resistance over a period of time
Right.
without causing manpower disruptions,
Right.
right?
True.
And slowly get into the groove.
True. Interesting. Now, what are the key principles applicable in most of the data privacy regulations enacted in the world, including India?
So there are about 8 or 9 principles that are standard across most regulations. It starts with the legal basis. So you identify the legal entity status of each organization involved.
Right.
So you define who is a controller, who is a joint controller, who is a processor, sub-processor.
Right.
So that's very important to know what role each entity plays.
Okay.
Next, define the modus operandi,
Right.
which essentially means how the data is going to be accessed, from where to where it is going to go, who will have, which entity has access to it, which entity, assuming there are 3 or 4 entities, performing that entire project
Right.
end to end. Then go into the other aspects, principles of consent,
Okay.
how you would take a consent, who is going to manage it, rights, which are the rights you wish to offer to the data subject or principal,
Right.
right? The concept of data minimization, retention policy, right?
So a lot of considerations.
Yeah, and compliance. So which are the laws each entity is expected to comply to? It has to be defined upfront, right? So these are some of the principles that one needs to have.
mind.
So when you do your data impact assessment, you essentially answer each of these points, and that then becomes part of your contract, and all parties sign to it.
True. So I think you mentioned 8-9 principles, and they would be so large in terms of implementation when a company does it.
Absolutely.
So you're absolutely right in saying that actually organizations should start implementing those practices now. So that would be great for them. Well, Ajit, thank you so much again for enlightening us on the Data Privacy Act, which will probably soon be coming
Become a
into India.
reality.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ajit.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks, Soshan.